Welcome back to the Chasing Tone podcast. Today, Blake Weiland is back talking with me, and we talk about a bunch of great stuff. Let's jump right into it.
Mr. Wampler, it's been a while.
It's been a minute. How have you been?
I don't want to do the math, but I'm pretty sure it's been a lot more than 1 minute.
Well, let me carry the one. Yeah, it's been a few weeks. Yep.
It's at least 17 minutes or so.
It's been a crazy few weeks. So, I mean, the podcast listeners don't know this. Oh, and by the way, this is the first, well, I guess now it's not the first, but it's the first official, what am I trying to say? As of right now, we're also on Spotify podcasts. We got accepted on that.
I saw that.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah. So a bigger audience. So welcome new Spotify listeners.
Hi, Spotify people.
And
how you doing?
If this is your first time listening, you may want to note that we don't strictly talk about gear. We kind of talk about everything. Kind of like if Joe Rogan played guitar and was a little bit uglier like me. It's kind of like what you got, sort of.
Yeah, that's a fairly accurate statement.
And if he was less interesting, you have me as well. So,
and if Jamie talked more, that'd be me.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. So anyways, it's been a few weeks. Most of the podcast listeners don't know this because we still had podcasts coming out, but they were more like a Q&A sort of thing. I don't know if you've caught the recent podcasts or not, Blake, but
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So basically it's just, the YouTube videos that I've done that was answering viewer questions. And I thought, well, some of this information is actually relevant for the podcast. And anyways, I want to be out of town for the next 2 weeks, so now's a good time.
There you go.
So yeah, so we're back. We're back live. I am home from Key West, Florida, and batteries are recharged. My liver is a little damaged, but we're okay. We're okay.
You put some milk thistle on it. You'll be all right.
Oh man. So I actually have a bunch of things, but I know you have some stuff as well. So can I start out though? Can I start out? Because
yeah, nothing I have is real pressing. It's just random thoughts and happenings.
So I'm gonna kind of drop a bomb on everybody. Not a literal bomb, but like something unexpected, I think.
Oh.
Because I've been thinking about doing this, and Blake, you and I have talked about this a bit. I haven't really talked about this with the world. I've thought about taking on some mods just for fun, and basically for fun,
Right.
And because I kind of miss that world a little bit. It's totally different than what I do now, but I kind of miss some of the more hands-on creative part of it. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take on some mods again. I'm officially starting today. Actually starting last week because I've already had a few people ask me about it and sent something to me. But as I can do them, and if you email me, I'll let you know how far out I am. But I'm going to start taking some modifications. So I'm going to start with like the Boss Metal Zone, the SD1 overdrive, the DS1 distortion, the Blues driver. And of course, you got to do tube screamers. So, but here's the kicker. So, like for example, a lot of the Metal Zone mods that you see are kind of derivatives of what's been floating around forever. Not some of them are directly from the book that I wrote. Some of them are just kind of like different takes on a distortion. You know what I mean? Like maybe they've kind of wrapped it up in their own version of what distortion is. So,
right.
And I've discussed this a bit on YouTube, like how to change it to an EQ, for example. So I'm going to start doing like EQ mods, turning it into an actual EQ with a boost, turning it into an overdrive that is much closer to what you'd find in the boutique market, I guess is a good way to say it. I can make it a better distortion if you want, but I think that's almost overdone at this point, honestly. And then of course, everybody likes a good fuzz,
Oh, well, of course.
So
of course.
So the idea being that and I've told you about this. I wanted a board full of meadow zones.
Of course. Yes.
So I've literally had several. I've had people send me a bunch of metal zones. Oh, so I'm actually really excited about that.
That's going to be good times. I can tell you're fired up about it.
I
You've
am
been talking about this for like a year plus, maybe.
I know, and I've I just was like, man, I don't really have the time to dedicate to it, and I've kind of cleared some things off my schedule, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make time for me to do this. So that's what I'm doing.
Cool. Maybe I'll scrounge around here in the shed and see. Maybe I need to send you something.
Yeah, if nothing else, I mean, you probably can find one on like eBay for like $10.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm only going to charge. These are pretty extensive mods. They're not just replacing parts. Like I'm literally rewiring most of the boards. So I'm thinking probably $60 or something like that. It's probably what I want to charge.
Yeah, probably just kind of depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, because it's if it was just replacing a couple parts, like a lot of the mods out there, then it's I don't think it's not that big of a deal. But some of this stuff requires some pretty extensive things, including like replacing pots and jumpering and off-board circuit boards and just some pretty extensive stuff.
So. I got this DS1 yesterday. Mm-hmm. This is sort of on subject, but I immediately started thinking about this, and it's funny that you brought this up. So I had to get my tires changed. So while I was waiting for my tires to get changed, I walked over because there was a Guitar Center. So where would I rather sit? In a Guitar Center or at the tire shop?
Hold on. Is this rhetorical, or do you actually want an answer?
Well, I obviously I made my decision.
Because you're kind of a gearhead. So for you, a gearhead meaning like car gearhead as well.
Well, that's true. But I've been in a tire shop enough.
Well, that's okay. Okay, I got you. I'm with you. I'm just saying, for some people, if they're into cars, you might want to sit in the garage.
I mean, if it was in like a hot rod shop, yeah. I mean, but I'm getting the tires changed on a 2012 Toyota Corolla. It's not that interesting.
Wow, that's a smoking muscle car you got there.
Oh, geez. It starts up every time. That's what I can say about it. Every single time. You
could drive from Portland to Florida on a tank of gas.
But I wandered into Guitar Center. I was looking around at the pedals, of course, is where I usually head. And I noticed they had a black DS1, which I first thought was the 40th anniversary. And I went, no, this thing's way too cheap. And it looks a little bit different because the 40th had like gold letters and stuff.
Right.
But this one was just inverted. Well, what I didn't know, I went ahead and picked it up because it was like $30 or something. And I was like, well, this is cool. Have a black DS1.
Now, was this a professionally painted black DS1 or was this like spray paint?
No, this is a legit from Boss limited edition DS1. And Tim Green, who he runs, I believe his company is called Mojo Stomp Boxes down in Australia. He's like a Boss historian, amongst other things. But like he knows all kinds of stuff about different Boss pedals, and he chimed in the Facebook group and was like, "Oh yeah, that was actually a limited run exclusive for Guitar Center."
Really?
That they did like 3,000 of them or something.
Oh wow! And you got it for $30.
I got it for like $30. They said it was on clearance, and it was kind of funny. There's nothing too special about it other than the color. But like it's kind of weird because I guess it's not on Boss's website or talked about or heavily promoted anywhere.
Yeah, so I don't recall seeing one. And I used to modify stuff all the time. I don't recall seeing that.
It was fairly new within the last couple of years. I have the box and everything, and it obviously comes in the fancier Boss box that they have. And it was kind of funny because the guy behind the counter was like, "Well, yeah, we got this." We got some new ones over here, but they're all orange. I'm like, I have an orange one. I want the black one. And he looked at me like I was a crazy person. I was like, I want the black one.
And he was like, but you don't get it. These are
He's
orange.
Yeah, he's like, but these ones are new. No one's played them. This is the display model. I'm like, I know. I want that black one. Do you have another new black one? No? Okay, then I want that black one. He was like...
you grab by the shoulders. If you have any more of these, please call me immediately.
Right. But I mean, at that particular Guitar Center, I've gotten some pretty good deals over the years. It used to be better as far as having, like, you know, more of the boutique stuff and more kind of vintage things. But I picked up my original yellow box DOD 250 for $40.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, $40, huh? Yeah.
See, I can't do that at my local Guitar Center because they're all like big gearheads. Like they know. They're like, well, hold on, those have the 1N34A diodes in it. You can't sell it for $30. You know?
Right.
Like they know their stuff. It's great.
They're this particular location not so up on their pedal knowledge for some reason, but it's worked out to my advantage more than once.
Yeah, it's kind of hit and miss sometimes, you know. But you know, there's been great Guitar Centers I've walked in, and there's other ones I'm like, not a big fan of this particular location. But you know, and I think it's that way with anything. You know, I mean, like
anything big, yeah.
That's just part of it. You know, the good thing is that if you need strings, you know, you can get them right now, or whatever, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, so, and they're open till like 9 o'clock, or
right?
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you got a cable that goes out on you, like it's not, you know, you can find whatever you need. Anyways, got it. Guitar Center, awesome.
So point being that I have a black DS1 that's a little bit rare, but it's not unique in its sound, and so it'd be like, I wonder if I should mod that. Or leave it alone. Probably should just leave it alone since it's kind of rare.
I was gonna say, I would think Tim would probably know what the value of it would be, right? Or more than I would, for sure. But I guess if it was me, I wouldn't touch it. I'd put it like on a shelf and cover it with a cloth and wait for the price to go up.
That's probably what I'll do. Of course, the price can't go up. You know, I could probably sell it already for more than $30. So I guess, whatever. But anyway, I thought it was kind of a weird thing. I didn't know they did that, but I thought it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Literally, the only difference is they inverted the colors. It's black with orange letters, same knobs, same everything.
Huh.
So,
well, I'll go ahead and throw this out there real quick, since this is a paid commercial for Wampler mods. If anyone out there has wants to inquire about it, just email me at podcast@wamplerpedals.com. So,
okay.
All right. So with that said, you know what? I've been doing my commercial here for 10 minutes now. So you tell me what you got, because you were saying something this morning and I totally forget what it was.
It was just a conversation. Nick Greer was on my podcast, and I guess for all the Spotify listeners, yes, I do another podcast. It's called the Tone Mob.
Yes,
podcast.
That's a good thing to point out. And you also have a great Facebook group called the Tone Mob as well.
Thank you, Brian. And I got to get on Spotify, apparently. So other than that, no, I was talking with Nick Greer of Greer Amps on the latest episode, and we've talked about some stuff that you and I have talked about before, which is like how many different things actually impact your tone and your sound. Right. And one of the things that we kind of talked about that I don't know if you and I have discussed on the mic before was how much like your actual physical body, like your human body, not the guitar body, can impact the sound of your playing in your instrument. And it's like
even on electric, I totally get that on acoustic, but really on electric?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think that like if it's pushed up against some scrawny indie rocker guy, like it's just kind of rattling off his bones. You know what I mean? But if it's pushed up against a big old, corn-fed Midwesterner, he's got a lot. They got it's gonna resonate. It's gonna resonate differently.
Gonna resonate in the mids, I think, in that situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I bet it's a lot less apparent, on a solid body electric guitar, but it has to affect it.
I've never thought about that. I mean, that makes complete sense to me, but I've never thought about it. Huh. I wonder how you'd test, like, wow, that just actually like blows my mind in a way, because that means that it not only is it in the fingers, not only is tone in the fingers, it's actually in your gut midsection too.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the reason I ever even kind of thought about that being a thing. Now, granted, I don't know if this is quantifiable or testable. This is just kind of a theory, but it just makes sense to me. But like, I know they make those weird guitar stands for recording, that they're mainly for acoustic guitars, but they actually hold the guitar away from you so you don't touch it with anything but your hands and your pick or your fingers. It looks horribly uncomfortable, but it's not. That's not even a subjective thing. Like, it's objectively a different sound when you push against your stomach or when you hold it out from you with one of those weird stands.
Right.
Like, you can, like, that, no one's gonna confuse that. Like, it definitely sounds different. Better or worse is subjective, but it's definitely different.
Huh. Fascinating. So what did you and Nick, what did you come to the conclusion of?
We didn't really come to much of a conclusion, more of just a statement of, we think this is a thing.
So there's tone woods, there's fingers, toneful fingers. And now, like we said, if you got a little meat on your bones, your guitar is going to be a little bit more mid-heavy, a little more chunky.
Or right? Yeah, just what do you call it? He called it, who was he referring to? He was talking about Warren Haynes? I think he was talking about Warren Haynes. He had big man tone. I think it's who he's got big man tone. I'm like, and it's a good point. Like, I think also being a different size and structured person, regardless of where you fall on that spectrum, I think you hear things differently too.
Yeah.
I think like the actual physical shape of your head will make you hear something differently than I do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you just look at how the ear canal is shaped, basically it's kind of like the reverse idea of a speaker. You know what I mean? It's absorbing sound rather than putting out sound, but kind of in the same way, as I understand. You know what I mean? Like, there's a mechanism of sorts that vibrates, right?
Right.
So that, of course, everyone's ears are shaped different. I mean, that's not, everyone knows that. So it would have to sound different. It would have to. You know what I mean?
think if you could somehow put the same brain into a different skull, you'd be like, whoa.
And maybe
everything sounds weird.
Maybe this is one of the areas in artificial intelligence that will be a big thing in a couple of years. People will stop buying pedals and amps, and we'll have like these ear devices you can put on. You're like, oh man, that sounds so good with these ears.
Well, this brings up a kind of a similar subject. Have we talked about? I've never used them, but I think they're called. I'm probably going to use the term wrong. A bone inductive or conductive headphones. I can't remember which term it is, but they actually don't move air. They literally vibrate your bones, your skull, and that's how you hear it.
Now there's like a bass cabinet. Where did I see this at? There's a bass cabinet that I think that you'd use in cars. It's not even a cabinet; it's a device. But you would put it in a car. I forget the company name. And what it would basically do is it would give you the sound of a subwoofer because it's vibrating your bones. So
yeah, I think that's a very similar thing to what we're talking about.
So I mean, like, you're driving along, and if you're sitting in the driver's seat, like, to you, it sounds like there's a gigantic amount of the cleanest bottom end you can possibly imagine. It's really, really kind of odd. But if you're outside of the car, you don't hear it at all. Like, you hear no bass.
I love that because I really like heavy bass, especially when I'm cruising. But this is kind of like, nobody likes to talk about it, but in the car audio world, but like those vibrating cars sound awful.
Yes.
like if you can got some nice punchy clear bass, that sounds great. But when it's vibrating your trunk lid, It's worse than not having subs, in my opinion.
I mean, there's a cool aspect to it if it sounds great. You know what I mean? Like if it's just clean. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because when
exactly
when there's anything loose on a car, and keep in mind, if you're pushing those sub frequencies, you're going to make things loose on a car.
Yes.
It's going to happen. But if it's clean, I love that sound. It's just it's almost like a trebly bass, if that doesn't make sense, but that's how I perceive it. It's just so clean. It's not fuzzy on the bottom end at all. But I mean, like through a really good pro audio system, that's kind of what you have, is like those real crispy lows and really nice chimey highs, almost like a good Vox style amp. But but yeah, that's anyway. So we're talking about those headphones. So they have headphones that do this now.
Yeah. I think they've been around for a little while. I was just doing some general Googling for no reason, and I found, I think they're, I can't remember what the term is exactly, but they vibrate your skull instead of speakers. You know, even earbuds are little speakers that move air.
Right.
Like that's not what these do. They just vibrate your skull, and yeah, that's how you hear whatever you hear. And I guess they have some benefits, some drawbacks. I can't remember the details because I didn't look into it too far, but it was kind of a fascinating thing. I'm like, that sounds slightly disturbing, but also kind of cool.
So are these full frequency, or are these well, I guess they'd have to be if it's covering your ear. It would be full frequency.
I believe so. I mean, I think they're designed for just general listening.
Wow.
To podcasts, for instance.
I'm really interested in that. Now you're making me want to look it up.
I can't. We'll have to. Yeah, we'll converse more about it when we actually know more about it. But it was kind of an interesting, just an interest. I'm like, didn't know they did that. That's fascinating.
Yep.
And then I went back to trying to find some more fuzz pedals. So.
Well, I also caught something that Bruce Egnaters posted in our Facebook group. Let me see if I can get to it here. Someone had asked roughly. Nope, that's not it. I don't. What did they ask? They asked. Well, shoot. This is terribly not interesting. Okay, here we go.
I was gonna start singing.
They were talking about, the question was something about how come my amp sounds brighter whenever I mic it than like whenever I'm standing in the room. And so Bruce Egnaters chimed in, and this is from his site. What is his site called? ampbuildingclass.com. Okay.
Okay.
And if I can, let me read through this real quick. So this is about sound dispersion. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He writes, this is on his blog. Ever wonder why your cabinet sounds better when you stand off to the side? Did you consider why the pros mic a speaker from the edge instead of directly in the center? Ever have people in the audience tell you that your guitar tone is really loud and shrill, but it sounds great to you on stage? This is a result of directionality of loudspeakers. Speakers inherently do not project all frequencies equally, but as the frequency increases, the dispersion increases. In non-technical terms, that means the higher you play on your guitar neck, the more directional your sound will be. So by nature, speakers tend to be somewhat non-directional at lower frequencies. This means you can stand off to the side of the cabinet and you'll hear basically the same bass and lower mids as your audience is hearing right in front of your speaker. On the other hand, this is also where the trouble starts because higher frequencies tend to beam from the speaker. So while you're standing off axis from your cabinet, in other words, not directly in front of it, you're hearing an even balance of lows, mids, and highs and feeling pretty pumped about your awesome tune. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to you, the listeners directly in front of your cabinets are being killed by the high end that's beaming. FYI, contrary to what one might deduce, having more speakers in a 2x2 arrangement, as in a 4x12 cabinet, actually compounds the problem and makes the beaming worse by narrowing the dispersion even more. So next time you play, take a moment to walk from side to side and squat down directly in front of your speakers. Note from Brian here, don't do it when the amp is really loud because you will pretty much kill your hearing. You will be amazed at the difference between listening off axis to the side and listening on axis directly in front. Have you ever seen a band in a small place where you're hearing the stage volume and wonder why the guitars sound so bright? Does that guitar player hear that obnoxious high end? And to be honest, I've seen this a million times. That guy must be deaf. More likely, he's standing so close to his cabinet, and all that high end is just blowing past his legs, and so they don't even hear it. And so they're probably actually turning their treble up to compensate.
Exactly.
So, you're making it worse on the guy in front of him. Okay, and so he says, okay, so now I've pointed out how we've all been playing for years, how we've all been playing for years, believing everyone in the crowd thinks our tone is as awesome as we think, or is it? Great. So what can you do about it? The key is to place your speakers so you are hearing the same thing as everyone else. If you can get the cabinets far enough behind you, you probably will hear pretty much everything just fine. If that's not possible, try placing the cabinet pointing across the stage sideways instead of forward at the audience. At least then you'll only be killing your other band members instead of the audience. Note, point this at the drummer. Yeah, they'll love that. Get them back for all those cymbal hits.
That's right.
Chances are you often want to kill the drummer. Apparently he says that next. Chances are you often want to kill the drummer or bass player anyway, right? The best thing you can do is tilt your cabinet so they're pointed at your head. I guarantee you will set your controls way different than what you normally do. There are a number of possible options to combat the beaming problem. A few companies make a solid disc that you install in front of the speakers to help disperse or attenuate the high end. But these discs have met with some success, though they do introduce some phasing issues. I didn't know that. Also, because there's a solid piece in front of that speaker, if one places the microphone in front of the disc, which people do at shows, it'll sound really weird because the disc is altering the sound into the mic. There are some other smart people attempting to address the problem, though. Most involve some form of foam piece in front of the speakers. The method that we find works best both live and the method we find works best for both live and when placing a mic in front of the speakers utilizes a sound absorbing 4-inch by 1-inch foam disc placed on the side of the grill cloth directly in front of the speaker. So just a little foam disc right in front of the cone, I guess. One brand is called Tone Bra. The discs are made of an acoustical foam material that attenuates the beaming highs instead of blocking them. I'm always surprised when this subject is discussed, and many guitar players make the statement, I hate the way my guitar sounds when I stand in front of my speakers. The answer is to not simply stand off to the side so it sounds good to you, but because everyone else is hearing the sound that you hate. Remember, why we play music? It's for others to enjoy. So make a conscious effort to think about what the audience is hearing too. So I thought that was a great piece written by Bruce Egnater.
It is. I didn't expect it to be that in depth, but that is very timely that you would bring that up. Actually, for me,
because you do that to people, don't you?
Oh yeah, I constantly just crank that treble. I play a Telecaster, and I just go, and I just no, I recently started rearranging the shred shed into be more of a somewhat organized, proper office.
A shred shedding office, if you
yes. But one of the things I wanted to do was set up some sort of station where I didn't have to bend, because I play a lot of different pedals. I try a lot of different pedals.
Right.
And I'm always bending over on the floor because that's where they're supposed to go.
Right.
But when you're doing that for hours, it gets rather uncomfortable. And so I'm set up this station. I actually repurposed my son's old changing table. And it's not only the perfect height to be able to stand up and tweak knobs, but I got storage space in the drawers for stuff. And then also it has this little upper cabinet right next to it, and I put my amplifier up there, my small little 15 watter. Mm-hmm. And immediately was like, this sounds terrible up here. It sounded way better when it was on the floor. And I was like, I'm beaming. And so I definitely set the controls on that substantially different now that it's up by my head rather than on the floor. Mm-hmm. So it's funny. I mean, like, that literally just happened last week. So. Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I fight with doing, like all the YouTube videos and stuff, because the sound, we talked about this before, but the sound of an amp in a room is so hard to accurately get on, get recorded. Because microphones color everything just completely. The type of microphone, how it's the components inside, and just everything about recording. It's very hard to get that sound, especially if you're used to standing up with the amp on the ground. it's so much different whenever you stick your head in front of that speaker. It's
Oh,
completely
yes.
different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing, and we've talked before, and I went on record for not liking amp stands, even though it is pointing at me. I Whenever I set my amp like on the floor, like especially if it's a wood floor and it's vibrating the floor,
Mm-hmm.
I just like that sound better. The but so I guess the key is sitting down on the ground in front of the speakers. That's not very. That's probably not a good idea, but I guess you could do that.
I
But
mean, I think that's what you should do for dialing things in.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? I think that is probably the answer. I mean, most people listening to this probably like to tweak knobs and like to adjust things. And so you're probably doing a little bit of a dial in before every show. And I think that probably is the right answer. Like, look at where everybody's heads are and put
yep,
your head where their head's going to be.
yeah.
And then adjust.
Whenever I do play a gig, if there's someone that's sitting in front of my amp, I there's been times I'm like, I feel so sorry for you, because you're going to go home with a headache tonight, and it's not going to be from drinking. It's going to be because that deluxe reverb is going to be cranking right in your face. And
Well, it might be from drinking because of the deluxe reverb right in front of your face.
There is some valid truth to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking, if you're the one playing, you're right. I am going home with a headache.
I've seen your YouTube videos.
Exactly. So, but I mean, that's something I actually have fought a lot, and I know. I mean, it really kind of stems back because I prefer this. I like that sound whenever the amp's on the ground and behind me a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm hearing it actually come from the speakers, it's always super bright. And, you know, it's not really that it's super bright. It's that for the past 25 years, I haven't listened to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Before I really started recording things for videos and demos and that sort of stuff. Once I really started listening to the sound as you're modifying pedals, it kind of changed everything. It changed the way I look at amps, and it changed the way I listen to music, to recorded music, to live music, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a weird way. So I was talking to a friend of mine named Myra Dean, who's used to be in a band called Trick Pony. It was real popular a few years ago, and now he's a big songwriter for the most part, and plays bass and guitar and stuff. But anyways, I was talking to him about how we listen to music differently. And I was telling him that it's hard for me to just enjoy a good song because I'm always like listening to like critical components, like, I wonder why they did that with the guitar sound or that type of distortion or that type of fuzz or whatever. And he said, I do the same thing with arrangements. I'm sitting there thinking, why did they put that part there? Why did they have this, let's call it, why did they use this type of reverb on that part panned right and this other type of reverb panned
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's looking at all these more songwriting engineering aspects so it's just kind of funny. I think as musicians, a lot of us, especially if our job is to listen to these critical components, I think it kind of gets in the way of enjoying the hobby in a way. You know what I mean?
To some degree, yeah, I can understand that too. I kind of I don't do it so much. I do obviously listen to the guitar sounds and try to kind of dissect that stuff. But one thing that's important to me as whenever I was writing songs was I wanted the lyrics to be, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I wanted them to be halfway decent. And so I'm always just like, why is everyone saying these dumb things?
especially when it comes to more rap based music, right? Like if I'm writing a song, it's like
no, not even rap. Like I understand rap has its own culture and like its own
Mr. Worldwide.
Style.
That's Mr. Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide. I'm just going to repeat.
Even count as rap?
I'm going to repeat that 10 times. Is that when you're writing songs in your pit bull? Do you actually write that?
No, I think he probably just stands up in front of the microphone and whatever comes out is, yep, that's a rap. Kind of like we do with this podcast.
Yeah, a lot like we do with this podcast. Exactly.
But no, like I just listen to some songs and I understand not everything has to be deep, thoughtful, things, but I don't know. I think it's probably part of the things like I write a lot of ad copy and I think about words a lot. And so I do at times, though I don't sound that way on the podcast, I do sit back and read or listen to material and go, that just sounds dumb. The way it's worded. Like, you just said there. Don't say there again immediately. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's probably just me being the weird one, honestly. But I know what you mean about not being able to enjoy things at times because you're analyzing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I hate it. That's not at all. It's just that, like, if I'm driving somewhere with my wife, she can just be listening to the song and enjoying the song. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, that was an interesting chord, or probably more often than not, I'm thinking, I don't know if I would have used that sound there. I probably would have, something a little less grindy, a little bit more in the 400 hertz to 500 hertz area. So, yeah, I nerd out a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, the answer is yes, we are the weird ones. You and me and Ira and everybody. We're all the weird ones. Everyone else is normal.
Yeah, I know. But I've lived my whole life being abnormal, so why stop now?
Yeah, I'm not about to. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just, it's fine. It's fine.
But I think, if you're in a band and, or even really if you're not in a band, you're just recording and you're miking things. But I would say, especially if you're in a band, I think it's really important to get familiar with the sound of where that mic is on the speaker.
Mic placement is huge in recording stuff. Huge.
Yeah, and I see a lot of times when I've been to, like, different bars or places here in Indiana, I'll see a lot of people just drape either a Sennheiser over it, just throw it on there somewhere, or just throw a 57, just randomly on the speaker. Because I think a lot of people don't really take the time, and it's not like a fault of theirs. I just don't think they really think about it. It seems like they put the mic on there thinking, the sound guy would take care of it. And I guess I guess I'm a little more anal, where I like to, whenever I do play, I'll spend 15 minutes moving that 57 around on that speaker. And they're like, come on, man, just mic it, be done.
Brian, may I suggest you doing the tried and true Road Warrior method of, putting some tape on your grill cloth where you need to put your mic?
Well, on my deluxe, or no, it's my Hot Rod Deluxe. I do have it. Actually, I actually took a marker. Sometimes you can see it in the videos. There's two different squares on it. They're supposed to be round, but it was easier to draw a square. Yeah. But that's two different places where I put 57s, depending if I want it a little more bright or a little less bright. So I do have that. But if I take any of the other amps, like for example, I have an orange I'm looking at. And there's no way.
That one.
Yeah, there's no way in the world I'm going to draw on that speaker grill cloth.
No, but you don't draw on it. You just take some of the blue tape.
Yeah, but every time I've done that, it always comes off on me. And then if I use duct tape, then it rips off some of the fibers. And
yeah, that's not gonna, blue tape coming off on you.
Yeah, really. It just like peels right off. It falls off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because you're playing them hot licks and it melts.
Well, see, that's what it is. It's all that badinka-dinks. So,
yeah, I wouldn't mark on that orange either. That's a beautiful amp.
Oh, it's so fantastic, Blake. I know we're getting way off subject, but that's okay because it's my podcast and I can do it if I want. But but I was playing that. I've been playing that orange over the past 2 days, like for the past 12, 14-hour days, past 2 solid days, right? Because I created a couple new effects that I'll tell you about that later. I can't discuss that publicly, but some very cool effects. So anyways, I've been sitting in front of this orange amp for 2 solid days, and I can't tell you how fantastic that amp is.
Which one is it? The Rocker Verb? 50, I think?
Yes, it's a Rocker Verb 50, yep.
Oh, those are awesome. You've been trying to get me to buy that thing for
I'm not selling it now. Not selling.
You're not selling it anymore? I should have got it when I had the chance.
No, sir. No. I was thinking about that the past couple of days. I'm like, holy crap, in a wet bucket, this thing sounds great.
I'm sure glad I didn't sell this to Blake.
Yes. It's so good, man. It's so good.
I'm gonna have to go get me one.
So,
but I got another amp coming that I can't talk about yet. But there's another amp coming. I'll be satisfied for a while. I'll be okay.
Well, my new gear purchase this weekend is going to be Own Hammer IRs.
Okay.
You know, we've talked
I know
about.
you get excited about.
I
those.
love IRs. Oh my gosh, I love IRs. So they're so. I'm just. It's like a warm, fuzzy puppy. You know, it's just when you find the right combination of IRs in your DAW, it's just heavenly, complete heaven.
I don't do that.
I know, but I mean, you got to think. Most of the time when I'm playing something, I'm playing into a DAW. You know what I mean? Like I don't play out that much, but I record a lot more. So for me, it makes way more sense just to use IRs.
No, it does.
You
I
know?
get it. I definitely get it. I actually played with a head rush yesterday in my Guitar Center trip.
Yep.
And it was just running to a powered speaker, and I mean, there were some things I really didn't like about it, but as a whole, I was like, I get it. Like, if I was touring or something, I'd probably have something like that.
See, I'm not sure about the head rush, but I do know, like in a DAW, like the last video, I think it was the last video I did. One of the last videos I did a week or two ago. I showed how I stack up IRs. So I'll have like one, it's an IR of one mic on one speaker, an IR of a different mic, and it might be on a different speaker. And then I'll have an IR of the back of the amp. So this is all basically digital snapshots of a mic'd amp at some point. So a mic on the back of the amp, and then 2 stereo room mics. And if you, with the right combination of stuff, holy cow, it sounds good, man. Oh my gosh. I just, better than any way I can mic an amp, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of how those are designed. Most of those IRs, right? They physically go to wherever they're, whatever sound they're trying to catch in whatever environment they're trying to capture it in. They actually go there and do it.
Right. They'll play like through the best compressors, the best the best audio components, and some really, really great mics you probably would never even be able to get your hands on, or at least the average person, let's say. So you can create a digital snapshot of let's say an old Plexi style amp, right? 1959 cabinet, and it's not actually the amp; it's just the speaker cabinet itself. Because the way they're producing it is actually a very clean amplifier, so it's not colored like a Marshall amp, for example. You're hearing the sound just from the coloration of the speakers, which is why it's so important to use a device like I use the torpedo captor, but there's a bunch of other things you can do where it's like an attenuator that you can pull the sound after the transformer. You know what I mean? And then you get the coloration of the amp, and you can get the gain and all that stuff of the amp. So, anyways, yeah, I know I keep beating the impulse response hammer over everyone's heads, but it's because I'm all for technology, my man. But I will say that stuff does not compare with the real amp in the room. It doesn't matter which IR you use; it doesn't compare.
Well, I would put a caveat on that. I think I know for sure we've talked about this before, but yet again, I think when you're playing, obviously there's a massive difference, but in a recorded format, I don't think I could tell you if you had the real thing and a like really good IR of that same thing. I don't think I could tell in a recorded format. I don't think I could tell the difference personally. But obviously, it's a completely different playing experience. Yeah,
it's totally different having the amp in the room versus hearing it on your monitors. You know what I mean? I mean, but I've said for a long time. I think like for example, the Fractal or the Kemper or the Helix or whatever. If you're playing live somewhere, I think those things are really, really great to have and super handy to have. So like I get a lot of people asking me via email usually, like what's my thoughts on it? Like it's either or. And to me, it's not an either or thing. It's like I like both. I love having the amp in the room, but if I'm going to a small club somewhere, it'd be really nice to be able to have a fractal I could take with me, and a pedal board. I mean, and an amp. Really, why not do it all if you can?
I always joke around in the Facebook group about being like the anti Kemper guy, but an anti Helix guy and stuff. But I'm really not. Like I think that all that stuff they're just great tools.
Right.
So if you got one and you like it, I mean that applies to everything. If you got one and you like it, then that's all that really matters.
Right.
Doesn't matter what that thing is.
Well, one of the things that I would, if I played out more often, and I keep in mind, I only play out maybe a few times a year right now. It's not that much. If I played out more often, I probably would take, I'd take an amp for sure. I still would take a pedal board and an amp, but I also would run a line out to, let's say like a 2 notes or something like that, just so I could use that 2 notes to go direct into the PA. Because then I don't have to mess with it. I don't have to mess with the mic. I know exactly what my sound is going to be like through that impulse response.
It's true.
So
that's true.
That's what I'm saying. Like I like it. I like them both. I just use them differently. Kind of like a fork and a knife. Which one do you like better? Both.
I need them both to eat my steak.
Exactly what I was going to say. How am I going to cut my steak, man? Come on.
I mean, I just eat it with my bare hands, but I'm an animal, so.
Oh, speaking of animals, this is totally not about gear at all. But I bought a new grill. I had to buy.
You got a new grill?
I got a new grill. Mm-hmm.
What'd you get?
Oh man, it's what is it called? It's you're gonna make fun of me, but I'm digging it. Yeah, because it's not like a grill. It's a big flat tray surface.
Okay.
It's a griddle. Is that what it's called? Big griddle?
A griddle?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Big one, right? So
putting on a fire.
No, that's not it. No, it's like this big, huge. It's just a big sheet of metal that heats up.
Okay. It's like an electric. It sounds like an electric skillet.
No. It's propane.
Okay.
It's powered by propane and propane accessories. But
good man.
But it's not like a grill that has like holes where stuff falls down. It's just one solid surface.
I got you.
Anyways, but it's a unique experience for me with grilling. If you can,
why would I make fun of you for that?
Because it's not really a grill, Because I was trying to debate whether I was going to get like maybe I thought about doing a smoker because I know you like a smoker. So
yes.
So and maybe I'll get one of those too in the future. But for this one, I thought, well, I could like cook all kinds of things. I could cook vegetables much easier. I could cook like eggs and bacon and on this thing outside.
You can still cook bacon on a smoker. Trust me.
Can you really?
I guess you could. I actually just did it last night.
Yeah,
now that
but do you cook eggs on a smoker?
Can't cook eggs on the smoker. No, I think the real answer is both. I need to get something like what you got.
It's a pretty fantastic thing. And to be honest with you, the reason why this is so terrible. The reason why I ended up going with this is because okay, so if any of you have been to Key West, there's this place called it's either called the Bull or the Whistle. I think it's called the Bull.
That's two very different things.
It's a white building. It's on a corner of. It's right on. It's a bit. If you've ever been to Key West, you know what it is. It's like a popular bar, and like at the third story is like it's like a nude bar.
Okay.
So, but I'm talking about that. The bar's not important, but the corner is because there's always a guy right there who cooks the best smoked sausage ever. Just sausage and he makes a sausage on this big on this type of grill plate thing, and he makes it there and it does the vegetables and he makes hot dogs and other things too. But just literally the best sausage I've ever had, ever. And so I kind of bought it thinking that I'm going to learn how to make sausage like this guy.
Well, I think that sounds like a fantastic outdoor cooking instrument. I'm a big fan of cooking outdoors, as you know.
Yes.
And I think I need one of those.
It is pretty cheap. It's only a couple $100, which is pretty cheap as far as grills go. Yeah.
Yes. Grill. We think gear's expensive. Grilling can get mighty spendy in a hurry.
I found that out real quick because, I'm like, $1,700. What?
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's like looking at me like, how much is your amp? I'm like, oh, shut up. You're not allowed to bring that up.
Don't talk about that. That's how I make my living.
That's different. The amp sounds great.
And it looks cool too.
So she's like, well, maybe the grill makes food better. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's the boutique grill. I get it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Look at Yoder's when you get a chance. Look at the Yoder grills. Those are I got to get one of those.
Yoder's. Huh.
Yeah. They're like these super high-end smokers. They're so cool. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyways, and this wraps up the cooking portion of the Chasing Tone podcast.
Hey, if you ever come to Portland, I'll cook you a brisket.
Oh, man. Now you get my mouth water. I don't know. Every time we do a podcast and talk about food, I get done and I'm starving. Why is that?
I know. Well, I think every time I do a podcast, I talk about food. I should have started a food podcast.
It's never
and then
too
I would
late.
be talking about guitar pedals.
It's never. You can do an additional podcast. You only that. What's that? 3, 4 now?
Yeah, I'll do one more podcast. You know what I'll do? I'll get Keely on the horn. I'll do a podcast with Keely, and we'll talk about cooking techniques.
I totally could see like a Cooking with Keely podcast. How great would that be?
I think we've talked about that being a YouTube thing before.
That would be a great YouTube channel as well.
Oh man, I would watch that much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Like he plays some tasty riffs, and then he's like, and today we're cooking lobster or whatever.
Yep. All right, so let's wrap up this podcast. Wow, 50 minutes almost.
Only 15 minutes of which was grill talk, so it's good.
That's true. All right.
All right.
You got anything do you have any final closing words by chance?
Final closing words? Not this time. I'll let people just wonder what I'm thinking.
Okay, then I'll close it out. Make sure if you want me to do a modification on your pedal, make sure to hit me up first because I want to make sure I can get you in. And I'm not planning on quitting the pedal business to do mods. This is just my Saturday afternoon stuff. So podcast at wamplerpedals.com.
Boom. Talk to you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to the Chasing Tone podcast. Really appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions, just shoot me an email at podcast@wamplerpedals.com. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.